Welcome to the Q1 Buck Poll. I'm Tim Hart-Haverhill. He's Mike Big Buck Hoffner. And on today's show, we have a lot of information. I'm going to be talking to Michael Goin. He's the state president for Quality Deer Management Association. I've got the DNR's Russ Mason with us talking about license fees. And Tony LaPratte's going to talk about entering and exiting your stand. And, you know, when you talk about QDMA, it's more than just about big bucks out there.
You know, it's interesting because when I started out hunting many years ago, you never ever heard QDMA. And now you hear it every year, and it's done a great job of doing good things for deer hunting in Michigan.
And there's a lot of people joining QDMA here in Michigan because we're getting near the top of having the most members of QDMA in our state compared to other states.
Yeah, I want to be known as the state to go to for deer hunting.
There you go.
They're on top of it.
And when you talk about license fees, so the chief of the Wildlife Division, Russ Mason, and I had kind of a frank conversation. I said, okay, now wait a second here. So if I buy one buck license and I get my buck in October, I can't go back and get another buck license. No, you've got to buy the combo up front. And I'm like, but why? And he had some good explanations, and it made sense at the end.
Well, I'll tell you what, that's what we always preach is pay attention to the rules and regulations of your sport. Because especially in deer hunting in Michigan, those rules and regulations have had a tendency to change over time. You don't want to cut yourself short by not paying attention to details, so you want to see that segment.
Then we also are going to talk to Tony LaPratte and talking about entering and exiting your stand. And what's cool about that is he's got some diagrams, and he's going to talk about some of the reasoning of why you just don't cut across that food plot.
Yeah, well, the proof is in the pudding, and he knows what he's talking about because he's got the bucks hanging on walls to show it. But, you know, those people that do get the big deer year in and year out, it's paying attention to the little things that make a difference in killing that big one.
All right, stay with us. We also have bucks on today's show, and then we have more registrations happening right now, so we'll have the new bucks coming up. We're going to give you a little preview, kind of a review of last year's bucks. Stay with us. You're watching the Q1 Buck Poll.
Country Smokehouse was started years ago by myself and Suzanne, and we want to specialize in homemade old-fashioned sausage and jerkies and things like that. People say it's a destination. They come out for the barbecue, they come out for the homemade sausages. A lot of organic people, natural people want to buy the product because they can't find it in the local stores. We are the largest processor in the state of Michigan. We invite all hunters to come in, bring your deer in, or just stop in and check us out so you can see yourself.
I recommend you come to the Country Smokehouse because you'll never be disappointed.
Trophy Class Real Estate specializes in listing and selling unique recreational, hunting land, and vacant land properties.
Hi, I'm Dan Hoffman. We're the premier real estate brokerage firm for Cabela's Trophy Properties in Michigan. If you're looking to buy, we have great properties like this one.
Here's a beautiful home with a large finished garage on 11 acres with 600 feet of riverfront on the Black River near South Haven, Michigan. A great hunting opportunity and Lake Michigan enjoyment.
Call us today or go online to see all of our properties.
When a hunter graduates from my new Super Whitetail Boot Camp, he will be in the top 1% of the deer hunters in the country. There's hundreds of little things people need to know to really have the ultimate property. I come in and show people how to put all the right pieces of the puzzle in that property. To hold deer, get more born on the property, make them come by the stands, keep them from the neighbors during daylight hours. I'm Tony LaPratte from Ultimate Land Management, and I'm inviting you to our new Super Whitetail Boot Camp.
The great outdoors has a lot to offer, and if you're ready to experience it on the next level, Greenstone can help you get it done. We finance acreage of nearly any size, from a hunter's haven to adventurous trails, or even that relaxing place on the lake. Greenstone's loan options make owning land affordable, with terms up to 30 years. And with 36 locations in Michigan and Northeast Wisconsin, we're just a short drive away. To learn more, visit greenstonefcs.com. Greenstone Farm Credit Services. We finance the great outdoors.
Back here on the Q1 Buck Poll, well, we are in hunting season, so when you get your buck or your doe, make sure you take it to one of our registration locations all throughout the state. If you're in an area that does not have a location near you, you can go to q1buckpoll.com and you can download the form, fill it out. We know you're going to be honest. Take your picture, send it to us, and we'll put you on the show, on the website, and we'll show everybody what's going on.
And if they know what they're doing, they can FaceTime us, and we'll walk you through step by step.
How you like that? Exactly. FaceTime him. All right, Big Buck's got some a review of bucks here to take a look at.
All right, let's start out in South Central Michigan with Caden Pearson's 9-pointer. The score was 51. Robert Johnson from Southwest Mid Michigan shoots a 12-pointer. The score was 47 3/4. Scott Vogt from South Mid Michigan's 15-pointer scores 54 3/4, and Dan Waltz from Southwest Michigan's 10-pointer with a nice score of 53.5.
Well, Mike, as we talked about in the open, I'm going to be talking to Michael Goin. He's the state president for QDMA. And again, as I go back to it, it's not just about big bucks, it's about stewardship of the land. And he's going to talk about the association, how you can join, how you can become a member, and really their goals, their mission, and their aspirations.
Yeah, it's become very, very popular, and boy, it's come a long ways from we started hunting, 30-some years ago. Kudos to the folks from QDMA.
Here's my interview with Michael Goin. Give me the overall overview, because I know there's a lot of chapters out there, and Michigan is one of the states that is growing membership right now.
Absolutely, Tim. As you know, our mission at the Quality Deer Management Association is to ensure the future of white-tailed deer, its habitat, and our hunting heritage. And so everything we do is focused on those three things. And you can summarize it using the acronym REACH. R standing for research. We fund more research than any other deer-focused conservation organization in the country. Education, we provide numerous education programs both online and in the field. Advocacy, we advocate for deer issues across the country. Certification, we have all sorts of certification programs for hunters as well as land management. And of course, promoting the hunt, which I think everybody can appreciate. And in Michigan in particular, we have over 22 branches. I think we're just forming the 23rd right now as we speak here, and over 5,500 members, which actually puts us at the #1 position in the country for membership within QDMA. So we're very proud about that, but it obviously shows how passionate deer hunters are in Michigan about the deer herd and about managing things appropriately and caring about the overall resource.
Now there's some people that say, oh, well, QDMA, it's all about the big racks, and that's really not the case.
That's correct, absolutely. We fight that sort of perception all of the time. And it is true that we advocate for certain things like the balance of the deer herd from a population standpoint, making sure that the herd is in balance with the habitat that is there. It's also balancing the sex ratios, having an appropriate number of does versus an appropriate number of bucks, and then also balancing the age structure. And I think that's where we kind of get into this, we're all about the horns and things like that. And that's not the case. What QDMA does advocate for is the protection of 1.5-year-old bucks, and then allowing the majority of the 2.5-year-old bucks and olders to be harvested. And also we advocate for an appropriate harvest of does when the population can support that and maybe needs to do that in order to balance out the herd.
Now you talk a little bit about the buck to doe ratio. What is the proper balance?
Well, I think if you talk to a scientist, they'll tell you that in a perfect world, that balance is a 1-to-1 ratio. But I think realistically, it's going to be very difficult, especially for us here in Michigan, I think, with the hunting pressure and the number of hunters that we have across the state. It's going to be very difficult for us to get to that 1-to-1 ratio, at least from a macro level. I think 2-to-1 is a great goal for anybody who's sort of managing their own property or trying to kind of figure out what the right appropriate ratio is. But the closer you get to that 1-to-1 ratio, the more intense of a rut you have, and you see more rutting behavior. And let's face it, everybody likes to see bucks chasing does and and rubbing trees and making scrapes and things like that. The tighter that ratio is, or closer that ratio is to 1-to-1, the more of that activity occurs. And you also condense that rut window into a smaller period of time that allows for then all of the fawns to be born in a shorter window in the spring, making them less susceptible to things like predators and allowing more of them to survive into the older age classes.
Now, how can somebody get involved in QDMA?
We have approximately 23 branches right now in Michigan, and the easiest way to get involved in QDMA is just to go to www.qdma.com. There's a button you push that says Join Now, and you can sign up right there online. You will automatically be associated with the branch that's closest to your physical address, and the local branch will most likely reach out to you and make sure that you get all of the information about what's happening in the local area.
And you can go on the website, join for free. That's one of the great things. And really, again, be a voice out there. And Michael, thanks a lot for being with us here today, talking QDMA and the National Deer Alliance.
Thank you so much, Tim.
All right, Michael Goin, he is the state president for Michigan QDMA. I'm Tim Hart Haverhill, and you're watching the Q1 Buck Poll.
At Outfitters Taxidermy, I do high quality work at reasonable prices. We do it all at Outfitters Taxidermy, from birds, small mammals, fish, deer, shoulder mounts, full body mounts. I pay attention to the details in the mount, like your eyes, the nose, and the way the horns are set. Make sure the measurement's all correct, just like it is when you brought it in. If you're not sure how to cape your deer, I can do it for you, show you how to do it, where to make cuts, where not to make cuts. When you shoot that buck of a lifetime, give me a call at Outfitters Taxidermy.
Hunting, fishing, trapping, Frank's Sporting Goods in Morley.
We got the biggest selection of trapping supplies in West Michigan, and the experience to go along with it, so we can teach you how to do everything right here on the spot.
Long guns and handguns for any application, and expert service from someone who lives the outdoors.
Don't forget, we got a great selection of ammo.
You'll find it all at Frank's Sporting Goods in Morley. Stop in or call Frank's Sporting Goods in Morley for the best deals around.
Hi, my name is Vic Havens, and we invite you to stop here at Frank's Sporting Goods in Morley, Michigan.
Coldwater Gun and Pawn, your concealed weapon headquarters. Buy, sell, trade. We do volume so you have selection with new guns arriving daily. Need ammo at the best prices around? Stop into Coldwater Gun and Pawn. Plus, we pay cash for guns or anything of value, including gold and silver, where we pay the highest prices in southern Michigan. Plus, we have DVDs, guitars, gifts, and more. Long guns or handguns, come see our selection today at Coldwater Gun and Pawn. Get your doe or buck registered in the Q1 Buck Poll. It's going to be an exciting year. We've already talked to a lot of hunters out there. They're seeing a lot of deer. We've got our studio, and then we got a little bit of woods going this way, and we've got that pack of deer that runs through the city of Coldwater, runs on the tracks. They're back
on a regular basis. Actually,
Absolutely.
last year, I remember being here, we had a nice buck. I went to get into my car to leave, and there's that nice, beautiful buck bedded down right in the woods, right across the street from the studio.
Tim, you got to come out here and see this.
It was awesome.
It was awesome. Well, we've got a review of bucks, and then I'm going to talk to the DNR's Russ Mason. He's the chief of the Wildlife Division. So let's take a look at some of the bucks on the Q1 Buck Poll.
All right, let's start out in Midwest Michigan with Derek Steffens with a 10-pointer, the score of 46. In Mid-Michigan, Norman Stewart with a 13-pointer, the score was 48. Andy Borders in Southeast Michigan brings in a 9-pointer with the score of 47.125. And Brent Mayer up in the thumb with a 15-pointer, the score 48 3/4.
Okay, so there's a lot of people out there. They're not ecstatic about some of the license changes, but I said, well, let me go talk to somebody at the DNR, and we're going to find out what the details are.
I'll tell you what, before I bought my licenses, I asked Angie Smead at Gander Mountain. She had them all down perfectly, so I made sure I made the right purchase.
Get your small game license, get your buck license. You might as well just get your combo license and be done with it.
Exactly. It just made it pretty simple. Bought them all.
All right, here's the chief of the Wildlife Division, Russ Mason. I'm now talking with Russ Mason. He's the chief of the Wildlife Division for the DNR. Russ, welcome to the Buck Poll.
Thank you, sir.
All right, today we're going to talk about, with some people, kind of controversial issue, and it's about the deer license, the fees, your base license, and then you've got your, you want a deer, you just want one deer license, you got the combo, you got, different levels there, and people are like, well, why has this all changed?
Well, let's go back to the beginning.
Okay.
And the beginning was that Director Cray said, we want something that's simple, fair, and efficient. So we reduced this huge morass of license types down to a much smaller number. As part of that, we were trying to come up with a deer license. And by the way, this is a buck license, not a deer license. You can shoot deer until you've got a pile so big, if you fell off it, you'd kill yourself. Let's be clear. So we said to folks, you can buy one buck license, or you can buy two. You can buy the combo tag, or you can buy the single tag, and you do it up front. And the reason for that is there are point restrictions on that second tag. And it's very difficult to kind of figure out how you do that in our licensing system so that we could sell then any deer, any buck tag, and then one with point restrictions. It's just technically difficult to do. So we said, folks, make your decision up front. And the folks will say, well, but I can only shoot one deer. No, you can't. Down here, you can shoot 6 deer. How many deer do you want? You just have to shoot antlerless deer, which, by the way, down here is a good thing. We would encourage people to do that.
Well, and people are like, well, okay, so I got my 1 buck license, and let's say I go out in October and I get my buck, and I surely want to go back out in November, but you can't go back and get another license.
You can't go back and shoot another buck.
But you can go back out and shoot doe.
Yeah. One other piece. And this is penurious, and I'm going to tell you the truth about this. A lot of people, and we've seen this, every time we've increased convenience, people have bought fewer licenses. So we make the turkey tag something you can buy right up through the season. What do people do? They procrastinate out, and then all of a sudden at the end of the year, they're, whoa, I didn't buy the license.
Right.
And they don't go. And that's a big deal to me. I suspect that single license guy, I'm in the beginning of the year, I'm going to buy one and then I'm going to go get one later. No, you won't. You'll buy one here and then you go to 90% of our deer hunters hunt 4 days a year or less. I don't know what they do then. They go rake leaves or watch football or whatever it is they do. They aren't going that second time. I want them to think about this up front because actually I want them going in the woods. My suspicion is that people will buy the 2 tags because they like the idea. It's not that much more money. Buy the tag, then you've got it. At least then we'll get the members of the Clean Plate Club going into the woods saying, well, I bought it and by golly, I'm going to fill that tag. Okay, good, go.
The purpose is to be able to monitor, the point restrictions. Is that really the point of not being able to go back and get that second license?
Exactly. It's just very difficult to sort of calibrate the system so we can sell any buck tag and then come back and do that later. It's just hard to do. Plus, again, I want people out there all season long.
Well, if I spend the money, I better go out.
Exactly.
Is that kind of the thought process?
I would.
Okay.
And I'm thinking there's at least another guy out there like me, which would be 2 more licenses than I would have sold otherwise, kind of a thing. So,
I'm hoping for one of those discounts. And so, $20 for 1 or $40 for 2. Couldn't I get it for $35? I'm working it.
I'll tell you the truth. There's some pieces there that we will, that kind of got lost in translation as the legislation went forward. The Menard Youth license is one. It used to be there were 2 deer licenses on a kid tag. Now there's 1.
There you go, from the Chief of the Wildlife Division. All right, hey, thanks.
Thank you, sir.
All right, good information here today, talking about licenses, talking about the deer check stations, and just giving you some general good information about going out and hunting here in Michigan. I'm Tim Hart-Haverhill. You're watching the Q1 Buck Poll. Stay with us. We got more coming up.
Thurston's Furniture and Mattresses is the place for beautiful log furniture at great prices. Thurston's country location and low overhead means you save money. See us for the area's largest selection of log furniture in aspen, rustic pine, and cedar. High quality, handcrafted, made in the USA, and affordable. Our great selection of log frame sofa beds offers many fabrics to choose from. Don't pay the high prices at the big outdoor stores. If it's log furniture you're looking for, Thurston's is the place to go to get it at incredible savings.
Everything for the sportsman.
DNR Sports Center.
For the hunter, tree stands, bows, guns, and gear, all the top brands.
Right here at DNR Sports Center.
For the fisherman, check out the huge selection of boats, marine supplies, and tackle.
DNR Sports Center.
Full service mechanic for boats, guns, and bows. One-stop shopping, a huge selection, and the best service around.
Come see for yourself and experience the personal service at DNR Sports Center. Everything for the sportsman.
Coldwater Gun & Pawn, your concealed weapon headquarters. Buy, sell, trade. We do volume so you have selection with new guns arriving daily. Need ammo at the best prices around? Stop into Coldwater Gun & Pawn. Plus, we pay cash for guns or anything of value, including gold and silver, where we pay the highest prices in southern Michigan. Plus, we have DVDs, guitars, gifts, and more. Long guns or handguns, come see our selection today at Coldwater Gun & Pawn.
Did you know that Tire City is more than just tires? Marshall Tire, Albion Tire, and Charlotte Tire are all more than just tires at great prices. We're your complete auto repair center. We're brakes, oil changes, steering and suspension, diagnostics. We're more than just tires. We're your complete auto repair facility. Tire City, Marshall, Albion, and Charlotte.
All right, how do you get big bucks to stay on your property? How do you find big bucks to shoot? How do you do it? Well, we've got one of the experts here today, Tony LaPrette from Ultimate Land Management and the Whitetail Boot Camp. And Mike, he's going to talk about entering and exiting your stand.
Yeah, I'll tell you what, there's a lot of science to it. You better pay attention to the details. You just don't want to go in singing, whistling Dixie as you're walking down your trail or making yourself a lot of noise. And just because you go into your stand one direction one time doesn't mean you want to approach it from the same direction the next time. So there's a lot of scientific thought that goes behind doing this so you shoot the big one.
Well, and to go along with that, you really got to, when you wake up in the morning, you can't, I'm going to this stand. Well, you need to check the weather. You need to check out what's going on out in the woods, because if you're predispositioned and that's not the right stand that morning, you're not going to have much luck.
Well, I think wind direction is key, and then where do you have your food plots, because where those deer are is not where you want to walk.
Exactly right. All right.
Pretty simple.
Well, let's take a look at some of the bucks here with Big Buck Hoffner quickly.
All right. Up in northwest Michigan, we had William Costello's 9-pointer bringing in a score of 41 3/4. In north mid-Michigan, we had Madison Newton's 10-pointer with a score of 43.8125. And Tony Scarlin up in the far north brings in a 10-pointer with a score of 40 1/4.
Entering and exiting your stand. Here's Tony LaPrette.
I'm here to talk to you about enter and exit and the common mistakes most hunters are making on their hunting land. Now here is an example I'd like to explain. Most people have one thick area, a bedding area. The red is for bucks, the yellow is for does. They have a swamp or something. Then they think all they need to do is put in a food plot, so they put in this food plot. And here's the problem right from day one. The food plot is too big, and here's how the guy's going to enter and exit. He comes in, he walks all the way across the food plot to get into a stand. Now what's going to happen, he put this food plot in, and some does are going to come. And by 3 o'clock, use your own watch, by 3 o'clock, deer are going to start coming into this food plot on the first day of hunting season. And the guy thinks everything's great. But what's going to happen is the big buck ain't coming to that big field. So it's going to get dark, and you got a field full of deer. Now, you get down out of your stand, and you start walking towards your truck, and you're going to hear to the truck. You're bumping deer as you're leaving, and you go, it don't matter, they're does. I'm a buck hunter. But let me explain something to you guys. Does control everything in the woods, just like your household, okay? Now, the next day the hunter comes and he walks in this way and he gets into the stand. Now, the first day by 3 o'clock, deer were there. Every time you walk through a food plot at night, you scare the deer off. You're going to take off about 45 minutes the next day because now they know a predator's on the field. So here it is, 3 o'clock, no deer. Here it is almost 4 o'clock and does start coming in. Deer are coming into the food plot from the neighbors and all over. And you're thinking, oh, this is working good. You may even see a little 1.5-year-old buck, but not the big guy you want. We're here to talk about 3.5 and 4.5-year-old bucks and older. So what happens? Again, it's going to get dark and no buck. So now you get down out of your stand, you walk the truck, the same thing happens. You're spooking deer. The next day you come in, get into your stand, 3 o'clock no deer, 4 o'clock no deer, and here it is almost 5 o'clock and here comes a bunch of deer. Now you've only hunted 3 days in the season and you've already did a major issue with your hunting land. Guys, it's simple as this. The buck beds down like this, and he's by the girls. He lets the does go out. And if he don't hear no stomping or snorting, about an hour later, he's going to be behind him one step. When you keep pushing the does back, 3 days of hunting, you got the does coming out the last hour, you made your buck basically nocturnal for the year. And you haven't even shot a deer yet. And you don't even realize you made a mistake. So now let's look at another system. Remember, the red is buck beds. So this property, we're going to put buck beds all over it. The yellow is doe beds. We're going to spread them out. We need bucks and does through the whole entire property. We also split the big field up. We can use grasses. We can use autumn olives. There's many different things. You can plant hedgerows of pines, but we want to split that big field up. But the main thing we did is we put in these little killing food plots all around the big food. Now this is going to help us a lot. We also added a few watering holes, and all the little red dots are stand locations. Now, come to hunt. We come in, go right down through the middle of the field because the deer are in the woods during daylight, 3 o'clock in the afternoon. This is about 2 o'clock. We get into our stand. We did not scare no deer. Now what happens, the does come to these little food plots. They're only going to eat 10, 15 minutes. Maybe a little longer, and then they're going to head out to the big field where there's tons of food.
And that's just what we want. We don't want to stockpile deer by our stands. A little while later, little bucks come, and they make some rubs and scrapes in the little food plot, and they head out to where all the girls are. But here it's getting dark, and let's just say the buck didn't watch my seminar, and he didn't show up. It happens. Nothing's 100%. So now, the worst thing we could do is to walk back through these big fields, because that's where the deer are at night, and we're going to spook them and change their pattern. So what I do is we head towards the property line, walk through the woods, and come out to our vehicle and leave, and the deer did not get interrupted me going in or exit. The next day, I come in at 2 o'clock, I walk through this big field where they're not at, and I get all the way back into the stand. Did not bump any deer. Again, the does come. And then the little bucks come, and they all head out to the field. Now what happens again tonight? Nothing happens. The big buck didn't show. So I get out and I leave and never disturb the deer. The next day I come in, and in 3 days I can hunt different stands, and it gets dark, no buck, and I can leave and never disturb the deer. Guys, you have to be able to hunt and never change the doe pattern. On my property, I can hunt all during gun season, and the does still come out at 3 o'clock. Most people, after 2 days of hunting to 3 days, the deer are dramatically coming out the last hour to an hour and a half before dark, and this makes your hunting hard. So guys, this is the basics. There's so much more you need to talk about, but for right now, this is what we're talking about, enter and exit.
Country Smokehouse was started years ago by myself and Suzanne, and we want to specialize in homemade old-fashioned sausage and jerkies and things like that. People say it's a destination. They come out for the barbecue, they come out for the homemade sausages. A lot of organic people, natural people want to buy the product because they can't find it in the local stores. We are the largest processor in the state of Michigan. We invite all hunters to come in, bring your deer in, or just stop in and check us out so you can see yourself.
I recommend you come to the Country Smokehouse because you'll never be disappointed.
You know, great information. We're going to have Tony on each week. He's got a number of segments about the rut, the pre-rut, late season hunting. We've got a lot of information coming up from him.
Yeah, boy, there's so much information, and deer hunting has come a long ways. And I mean, from the beginning of the season to the end of the season, the tactics and strategies used to killing that big one are different. And Tony knows how those things work, so he has a lot to share with you that can be very helpful with you harvesting your biggest buck this year.
All right, and bucks or doe, get it on the Q1 Buck Poll. You can download the form. You can go to one of our registration locations, and then we've got some great prizes we're going to give away in January, February, and March, including that Yamaha Grizzly 350 ATV. So get your buck or doe registered today. All right, that's all I got. You got anything else?
No, but we have a date for Sunday to go deer hunting. So Sunday morning it is, buddy.
Absolutely. And we're going to show you what's happening out in the woods. He's Mike Big Buck Hoffner. I'm Tim Hart Haverhill. Thanks for being with us this week on the Q1 Buck Poll. And remember, whenever you're out in the woods, be safe.
Great country for Kalamazoo. Find us on your radio at 102.5, online at greatcountry1025.com, and on your mobile device on iHeartRadio. Kalamazoo's Great Country 1025, powered by Nash.